as well so that you have it for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are here for our professional development on decluttering Canvas, a great way to approach our Canvas learning system. Our SON colleagues are here, as well as some colleagues from TLT. So I thank them for joining us. We have Rachel here, Anjali, and Jessica. So great people to bounce questions off of, and they'll have a little bit of time speaking here as well. Great resources inside the School of Nursing, but also a great perspective when it comes to what else is happening outside of our silo of nursing. We hear often, this is what we're doing, this is what's going on. And I certainly hear from them how marvelous our colleagues and how marvelous our faculty are in the School of Nursing. So they're here to give us some fresh ideas as well. So certainly thank you to them for joining us and taking time out of their day to be here with us today. So I wanted to kind of get started with a little bit of an introduction. And if you take a look, I'm going to share my screen here, and everything we're going to be using here today and talking about decluttering Canvas is inside of our Widener School of Nursing teaching and learning community. So I have that link inside of my chat. I'm going to send that right now. So if for some reason you don't know where that is on your dashboard, you can always just click on that. That'll take you to the front of the course where I am right now in the SON teaching and learning community. And today, because our topic is decluttering Canvas and we're going to concentrate on best practices in modules, everything we're going to look at is inside of your modules tab here today. So Donna has a lot of great resources inside of here. So we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at that. We're going to concentrate on a little bit further down the page here. And if we go, we have decluttering PD materials. Okay, so we're going to make our way in and out of these couple pages here today. And then some of the examples and things that we refer to as this module underneath, which is your optional learning resources. So as we make our way through here today and we're looking at things, know that everything we're talking about and everything I'm sharing with you is in this space. So you're welcome to go there and access it at any time. And then certainly outside of that, we'll have some other opportunities for engagement within here. But before we get started, and before I kind of open the floor and we go from the beginning here, I want to give us an opportunity for a video conversation introduction. Now, hold your applause. This is the acting debut of myself and Donna Callahan talking through a description of decluttering module, right? So here we are working with an instructional designer and a faculty member and talking about what that looks like when we're having a little bit of trouble finding things inside of our Canvas course. So let me just double check and make sure here. I'm going to stop share because I did not do share audio. And let me share my sound with you and jump here. And again, now, this is like Oscar worthy. So again, this is available inside your module. So as many times as you want to watch this, you can come in and watch it as many times as you want. Okay, so I'm right here, pages of video conversation to get started. Let me get this loaded here. Our other colleague inside of TLT, Devin Dotson, does really good video work. This is his work inside of the video. I don't think he popped in here today, but another great resource that we have inside of TLT, outside of your resource in School of Nursing, but certainly another great one that we have over there. So if this is something you like, something you want to talk about, another resource to explore as well. So let me get started here. And Anjali, if you could just give me a thumbs up when I start here to make sure you have sound, that would be great.
Hello there. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for taking time to meet with me.
Of course. I understand your students are having some trouble finding content and resources in modules. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. That is correct. I have always been one to think that the more resources, the better. But my students are constantly telling me they cannot find things, or they're emailing me at the last second complaining about not being able to locate items in the course.
Yeah, I can see how that would be frustrating for you and the learner. Let us take a look at your course and see how it's set up.
Okay, here's my course. I really like to put everything in files, but I think the content might be too long or the students are having trouble locating everything there is to look at.
Yeah, looking at this, you have a really great start, and you're correct. Best practice has us providing resources that we think might be valuable for our learners. But I think we need to be a little bit more meaningful in how the content is organized and presented.
Well, I have items and files. Isn't that where students should go to access course resources?
Yeah, Files is a wonderful place to store content and to organize it by category. But for students, we want to go to a step further and make sure the content's a little bit more visible. Not to mention, files are not accessible for screen readers and are difficult to navigate for other students who might have accessibility needs. Students should only see the necessary content and resources in a course, and the easiest and most accessible way to do that is to link these resources into pages in your modules.
Pages? What is that? Can you tell me about that?
Of course, Pages displays all lecture content and educational resources that we might not put in our assignments or our discussions or a quiz, but Pages can include text, videos, links to files, and other course content.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of Pages, but I never thought of using them that way.
Donna, imagine your course content going from this to this.
Wow, that looks great. Can you walk me through how you did that?
Absolutely. Let's get started.
Okay, again, I ask you to hold your applause to the end of the session. A little video introduction into our topic here of pages. We know this is a very highly anticipated session and certainly a needed session inside of the School of Nursing, some of us to a varying degree. We know that some of us are using pages, some of us are using them a little bit, some of us are using them not at all. And how do we know that? Well, because we gathered data, and we love that data part. So we are here to take a little bit of a look at that data before we jump into our learning today, and to present that information to you is our friend Rachel from TLT.
Hi. So first, I do want to thank anyone that filled out the survey that was sent out by Andrew. It did actually help give us a picture of what we really needed to focus on, what everyone kind of needed to know, where we needed to make sure we were meeting your needs. So if we take a look at the survey results, the first part of it is just where we wanted to know, where are you putting your resources so that we could help you get them organized in the best way possible. So all the way on the left, do you add external URLs or links links to files directly into your module? And it looks like almost 3/4 of the people who responded say they add both. So that what that means is in their modules, they might have their assignments, they might have some other things. Maybe they do have some pages, but they're putting external links in there as well as links that take them to the specific file. We had a very small percentage either just do external URLs or neither. So it looks like there's a large amount of links to files being put into the module. So that kind of helps us make sure we know when we talk about pages, we need to make sure we really focus on linking to files properly and things like that. So we wanted to take a look at how many URLs or links that people are adding, and it looks like almost half of the people who responded put 4 or more. So that kind of tells us that we need to make sure that when you have a larger number of resources that we're able to help you organize them well, chunk them out. Sometimes when they're all listed in a module, it can get a little overwhelming. So putting them on a page and being able to separate them by topic or type can really be helpful. And then we also wanted to take a look at, do you direct your students to the files area of the course? And just over half of the people who responded said no. This was really helpful for us because we want to make sure that if you are, that we kind of have a conversation about, okay, what reasoning are you sending students to files? Is there something that you find helpful that we can't achieve another way, and kind of help drive those conversations about how to best meet the needs of you, your students, and some of the accessibility concerns. All right. We also looked at the current use. We have in the nursing program, I know that there are courses that are created by course leads. There's also courses that people are creating. So just using pages doesn't necessarily mean people are always creating their own. So we really wanted to take a look at the difference so that we know, do we need to teach people how to create pages? Do we just need to teach people how to do more with pages? So almost 3/4 of the people responded are using and creating pages. We did have almost 20% using pages, but they weren't creating pages. So they might have been teaching in the RN to BSN program or another program where the content was already delivered for them. And then we had 11% not using pages at all, which probably meant any resources they had, any links they had were all listed in the module. We do have a little over half of people who are confident with pages, which is good, but we also want to make sure that we're providing enough information to get that 44% to a much smaller number. And then it looks like the responses we got did show that people that are using pages do have a variety of resources on their pages, which is great to see, because as I'm sure you guys know, if you look at a page and it's only text or it's only just large amounts of video and nothing else, like sometimes that can get a little overwhelming to look at. Having some variety is helpful just visually. So we wanted to take a look at all of that, and it really helped Andrew, Angeli, and I kind of discuss how we wanted to best help you guys with using pages and what you guys needed to know. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. And yeah, we got really good, insightful data. So a good kind of benchmark for where we need to start. And like we said, we're kind of at varying degrees, right? So it's hard to say, okay, this is the way we're doing it, so everyone needs to know this. So let's kind of touch on those topics. And then of course, outside of these sessions that are offered here, if you need a deeper dive or you need to sit down with someone and look at something very particular to you, that's what we're here to do. But this at least gets the thinking going, gets the brain moving and thinking about, okay, this is how I use it in my course. This is how I can get better at using it. Now, outside of just this session, this is obviously a much bigger picture item that we're talking about. This is your students' learning experience inside of the environment, right? And a lot of you know that we're working towards our graduate template, and our graduate template that's being launched inside of fall 2023 is centered around pages, is centered around giving the user experience inside of modules. So those of us who haven't yet been in that space, and even though we're talking about the grad side, hint, hint, we will eventually be talking about the undergrad side, we can get a little bit ahead of our best practices and what those templates are going to be looking like if we start to instill these things inside of our course and start looking at them now. So again, a lot of these things are already being done. I don't want you to think that we're starting from the bottom and we have to recreate everything. Okay, a lot of this is we're just taking things that are inside of your courses and maybe putting them in a different place or maybe putting them in a more organized fashion. So a little bit of work on the front end, we understand that, but we're going to give you some little things that you can concentrate on now to hopefully for you to find some successes to be able to move forward. And then I'm sure you'll find some other opportunities as you move into other courses and other semesters where you can take some of our practice from today and move that forward as well. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the resources that are provided for you here today. So I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint here again and back into Canvas. And again, you can follow along with me. I'm inside of the School of Nursing Teaching and Learning community. And when we look inside of the School of Nursing Teaching and Learning community, wow, it's really long to say, the SONTNLC, that sounds good. I think that sounds good. Let's take a look at that. So let me share my screen over to that side and get you back on our modules. Now, just for a visual point, right? You can see that this teaching and learning community has modules set up. Here is your icon for these pages, and you can see here is your icon for links. So what we're talking about inside of this, and here's a real good place where your own instructional designer can clean this up a little bit, but a lot of links on a linear list that just go to external sites, right? And this is where you kind of can alleviate the scrolling and enhance the learner experience when we're looking at this. So how do we take something that's like this, where it's a lot of links, and kind of present it in a more constructive fashion, better for our learners? So that's what we have inside of our Decluttering PD material. We looked at the videos. Here we're going to jump inside of using pages to guide learning. When you take a look at this, it's a very quick overview as to why pages are beneficial, okay? Now, if you think about it and you kind of close your eyes and you picture a Word document, that's what pages is, right? You get a blank slate to put videos, to put text, to link articles, to put images, all of those things inside of this blank slate, instead of what we saw previously, which is just kind of a linear list of links. Now, why would that be beneficial? You take a look at some of these things, right? Obviously, very visually appealing. It allows you to kind of set the context more for your learners, gives them background knowledge, build up that background knowledge before you present a resource, which is what we're doing inside of the classroom, an aspect that isn't always there when you're inside of an online learning environment. A lot of times we're just like, hey, here it is. And those first couple sentences that you would normally say as an educator inside of a large group don't occur. Pages allows you to do that. Pages allows you to type out that introduction, or allows you to put a video introduction or an audio introduction before you even put those resources. So certainly gives you more of a platform for those things. Outside of using all of that, another big bang for our buck is the accessibility factor that we get on side of pages, right? We hear this all the time. Accessibility is huge. What am I doing? What am I doing to make sure my class is accessible? What am I doing to make sure I'm reaching all of my learners? You have an accessibility checker on every page. So every page that you're doing, you have a one button click that looks at that page and says, hey, here's this thing, and this thing that can be worked on. And believe me, more times than not, those things are very minimal, right? It's this text might be a little bit too small, or this image doesn't have alternative text. And Canvas does such a great job of just walking you through that. It's not, well, alternative text, I have no idea how to do that. It's, nope, here's the problem. Click on this button. This lets you do it. And you can fix those accessibility issues right there in real time, okay? So Pages really gives us a more robust environment. Again, gives us that blank slate to present all of our knowledge. Another big awesome thing about Pages is it allows you to take a page that you create and put it inside of your students' to-do list, right? So if you're providing supplemental resources, or maybe you're providing an extra resource for students to look at before an exam, or you have items that you need them to look at before they get to a certain module, you can take that page and say, I want this page to drop at the top of our students' to-do list. And we know, and our TLT colleagues can certainly attest to this, that our students love their to-do list. Okay, that's one of the things we heard in our feedback from our grad template design, and having that check, kind of, this is what I need to do, this is where I'm at, approach is awesome for our students, and they really like that. So this is another place where we can kind of provide that learning environment for them, okay? And that's all just right inside the page, and that's literally just by checking a box, and it drops inside of their list, okay? Now, I'm certainly gonna give you an opportunity to jump in today and do all of this with me, but before we get to that, I just wanted to jump over to the, where am I at here? My sharing is underneath my sharing and my screens are all over the place. If we look at a normal environment and we talk about what our students are doing inside of that learning environment, we were able to gather some of that data from the survey, but that survey was informal, right? It was you sitting at your desk, not necessarily having that conversation with the colleagues or the feedback with your colleagues. So before we jump into kind of the we do process and the opportunity for us to look at that, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity for some feedback today as to how you specifically are using Pages, or when you look at this today, how you might see yourself using Pages. Now, again, we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel here. We're thinking about what we already have and how we can make it a little bit better, right? So if I give you a little bit of time to think about that, and you can certainly type an answer in chat, you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand. But if we could have a little bit of feedback from our colleagues and from our other people who are teaching inside of this environment as to how are you utilizing this resource here today, and then that way we can jump off of that and look at how we can create pages on our own and what that might look like. Anybody want to share? Go ahead, Kath.
I use it, well, right now I'm using it in 475. I will post a question. I'll write out the text for a question. Some of them might have a video, some of them might have a picture, and that's our participation question. And then I actually underneath, I put it first in a module, I put a page, I put the question. It has a timestamp on it, so they know when it opens, they know when it closes. It lands on the to-do list, but then underneath it, I put another page, or I'll put a file that'll actually have the date that will open with the answer. So all of that is built within the module. And once you set it up, you don't have to do anything else to it. And it automatically goes to the gradebook once you hit complete or incomplete. And you can give them feedback right away in the comments.
Okay, good. So I heard a couple things there. I really like the idea of kind of setting the environment for the learner and giving them kind of that pre-thinking question. And then also the ability for the feedback in real time for giving the answer to kind of open up afterwards. When you talk about submitting the incomplete and complete, are there then submitting an assignment after they look
No,
at the
it's just,
pages?
so when when I'm loading it and I put the question in, I actually put it in as a text. So it either, and so for these questions, I kind of leave it open-ended that some of it might be math, some of it might be a short answer, some of it might be, you know, an explanation or a rationale. So it allows them to do some free text in there. And that's when I can either say complete or incomplete, or, you know, mark it, because it's a participation. They're going to get it whether it's right or wrong. It just then gives me the opportunity to give them feedback in the comments. So it says complete or incomplete.
Okay, good. I think that's awesome. Anjali, do you have a thought there?
I think it sounds like an assignment in a module, because pages don't allow you to comment or mark as incomplete or complete with feedback.
True, it is an assignment. Yeah.
Okay, so we're organizing content in the module with an assignment, which is awesome. It's a great way for them to go directly into the specific module and access the content. I actually do have a question listening to that. With the fact that you're using the modules, I just kind of want to go back a little bit to files versus modules. When students are being directed to files, is there maybe a reason that you might prefer sending students to files rather than putting the content into the extra resources into modules? I just didn't know if anyone had a thought or they practice that way.
I have a thought about the files piece, because like, say you do an update on that file, and if you don't take the old file off, students can then actually pick up the wrong file. And that can become an absolute nightmare, especially like with an update on a syllabus or something like that. So that's why I would rather direct them to the module or the page so that they can get the most current information. And I know that they've got it.
It's a great
I also
point.
lock the
That's a
files
great
too.
point.
Yep, I do that too. That's
Yeah, good point, Tanya. Kind of just locking that resource out, and that's certainly not even making it visible. Certainly alleviates some of those headaches within there, for sure. Monica?
I used files in the past for my undergraduate course because that's how I was taught. And then as I learned more, I learned that that's really not the best way to do that. So moving forward, I won't be able to actually embed them in the modules. I don't do that for my graduate courses, however, because it was set up a little bit differently. And I found it was just easier to put everything within the modules. So I have, an overview with the links to any resources I want them to read, any articles, any websites, etc. And then I have a task to do, and then they go into their discussion. So that's much easier. But I think, and I thought because we didn't necessarily have discussion questions in undergraduate, that perhaps I'd just keep it like this, but then it did become confusing and I did have questions from students, and I won't be doing that anymore. But again, it's just because someone showed me
Right.
that way. So I just repeated it. And then I had to learn for myself that it's not necessarily the best way to do that. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
And then
think
it's
that's,
confusing for me too, sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And that kind of speaks to
Mhm.
you in both realms, right? You're doing it this way in undergrad and doing it this way in grad. And that speaks to kind of the course coordinator side of it, right? You get a course from someone else and that's the way it's set up. So,
Yeah.
that's just kind of the way you take a hold of it. And know that, outside of the kind of the prescribed stuff that might be coming from a course coordinator, the utilization of the pages and kind of those resources is a place where you can put your own touch on that learning environment, right? When you find your own resources, or maybe you have a supplemental resource, or we know that in some of those freshman seminars, especially, there's some stuff that's a little bit more topic specific to that freshman seminar. That's a great place where you can kind of organize that stuff a little bit better. But you're right, Monica, that's tough when you kind of get a course that's pre-delivered. And ideally, when we have these sessions, we're kind of hitting it from the top down. We're hoping that the course coordinators are kind of grabbing hold of this and understanding that these are best practices. And we're kind of starting to trickle some of that stuff into the top level so that people who are not coordinators are that starts to make its way throughout the curriculum, and we start to see that everywhere. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to reemphasize something you said before and maybe open a discussion and maybe get people talking about it, is those moments you have when you teach in a face-to-face course to guide learning, how important it is to very intentionally put those moments in your online course. And when we just deliver something in files, we can't say to students, the purpose of this file is this, or I really want you to pay attention to this when you read this. And this isn't just a file. This is any video you give, any article you provide your students, right? Any sort of learning content, we would naturally do that in the classroom. We're like, okay, everyone, we're going to watch this video. I want you to keep in mind, there's this guy that's going to show up and he's going to have this conversation. All that stuff should be written in text on the page to really allow students to make those connections and have a true purpose for their learning. And I think you brought that up earlier. And I think that to me is like the number one reason for pages outside of just being super user friendly for students.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that guide, right? It's that setting that background. It's, ideally they might have the knowledge back here, but you have to bring it to the forefront. And we know that a lot of times our learners are coming from class to class or coming from exam to exam, and they're very busy. So setting that stage and providing that, that precursor information, you can really get your bang for your buck in the learning, rather than then realizing they didn't get it and having to go back and now do it again and do it. And you're just adding onto the pile. Then instead of just kind of seeing the precursor in the front end and saying, okay, how can we tackle it the best way the first time? And that's certainly one of the ways. Great point there, Jess.
And taking it a step further to say, like, this concept, you're going to need this 2 modules from now when we talk about whatever, or in another course that's going to come up, right? It makes me think as a learner, this is important. This is going to keep coming up, and I need to make sure that I grasp this concept and really kind of giving them the full picture of why this information is really important.
Perfect. I want to show you just a quick example of that. And again, we are here inside of the same space. So everything I'm showing you is in the same space. We're up here inside of the decluttering PD modules. I'm clicking on one of the examples right here. This is from the video that Donna and I did, but here's PowerPoint resources, right? We all have PowerPoints. We all have things we give to students. And I grabbed these from one of our N125 courses. And when I grabbed them, they were just listed with the file name, right? So when we look at this, the only thing that was originally here was steps of nursing process.ppt and nursing diagnosis PPT, right? So we're only giving them a link to the content. So what we're speaking of here is this ability to be able to come on the page and inside of the page, put your text, drop your video, drop any other link to kind of set the precursor to that information, right? So let's take a look at how we do this, right? Because we kind of have, again, all over the place. Some people try it, it might not go so hot the first time. So then it's like, oh, I'll get back to it. So as we're here today, if you would, I would love for you to be inside of either the teaching and learning course or inside of one of your own courses. If you have some kind of sandbox where learners aren't active, that's probably the best place to be working. We try to not be working inside of environments where our learners are learning just for the sake of, we don't want to accidentally mess something up inside of that environment. We know how high stakes some of that stuff is. So I'm just going to jump inside of the regular teaching and learning environment, okay? And I'm just going to start with, how do we make a page, right? We're sitting here talking about pages. Where do they come from? We know that over here on our left-hand menu, as an instructor inside of a course, you have a link that says pages, okay? What this is a directory of all the pages that are inside of your course. Now, this is another great place to talk about best practice, because in the School of Nursing, we are guilty, okay? And I'm doing my best to try to rewind this a little bit, but we need to get back, we need to get on the train of master courses. A lot of us tend to take our course from the prior semester and just kind of bring it over to the next one, and bring it over to the next one, and bring it over to the next one. And when you do that, you bring everything over to the next one, and everything over to the next one. So by the time you've done 5 copies of that course, because you teach in not even 5 semesters, it's literally you teach fall, spring, summer, and there's 3 copies right there. It doesn't have to be 5 calendar years. It's, you might have that course every semester. So now you have Student Resources 1, Student Resources 2, Student Resources 3, Student Resources 4, Student Resources 5. And every time you got to go in and clean that stuff up, right? And that's from that copy of course, as opposed to just having the master course and bringing that over. So if you are looking inside of an environment and you click on pages, you will see, you might jump to this kind of environment here, but you still have a button up on the top here where it's view all pages. And this is where you get a linear list of all of the pages that exist inside of this particular Canvas course. If this course has been copied, you might have different file names. So you might have Media 1, Media 2, Media 3, Media 4, because it sees it over and over and over again, okay? So in here, you can do plus page, okay? And then link back to the module. It's a whole thing. I would not encourage you to do that. But instinctually, because we're sitting here and talking about pages, you click on Canvas, you see the word pages, you click on pages, you click plus pages. Now it's like, okay, well, how do I get it back to the module? So instead of working backwards, let's work forward and start at the module, right? Because this is where we're pushing our learners. We're telling our learners to go to the module. We're not telling them to click on pages on the left-hand side. We're not telling them to click on files on the left-hand side. We're telling them to click on modules. Okay, so inside of modules, we know that we get our kind of module heading after we have come to the top and said plus module, right? We do plus module and we say, let's see, extra resources. This will give me the module heading of extra resources. Now, we're so eager. We have PowerPoints, we have files. Look how easy Canvas does this for me. I can just drag and drop. Let me grab the 20 things I want to give to my students and put them right here. Could you do that? Yes, you could do that. Best practice? No, not best practice. Easy for your learners? It depends what your file names look like. It could be semi-easy for your learners. But here's where you get your bang for your buck on pages. Okay, so inside of my extra resources, I have my plus sign on the top right. And again, you'll notice that you automatically land on assignment here. Okay, that's always your menu. Now, very intuitive, once you click page the first time, if you go and hit the plus sign again, it'll still be on page. Canvas says, oh, you appear to be working on pages. I'll keep it here for you. So ideally, the first time you do this, you only need to change add assignment to page that first time. Now, if you were really anxious and you did go through and did our plus page already, here's a list of all of the pages that already exist inside of this course. Okay, you can click on that page, let's say virtual classroom, and click add item. Okay, now that page is right there for you. But if I'm starting anew and I'm hitting plus, again, look, landed right on page for me. I don't need to change my drop-down menu. I need to come up to my create page. And this gives me a blank slate to say, here is my extra resources on HIPAA guidelines. And not with a lowercase I, and not with a double P. You have no idea how many of our juniors think it's HIPPA. HIPAA. Okay, that's beside the point. But when we look at that and we check out HIPAA guidelines, I now have, here's your icon of a page. I can click on HIPAA guidelines and you'll notice that I'm blank, right? I still need to click my edit button in the top right-hand corner to get my rich content editor. Okay, and this is where I had you kind of close your eyes at the beginning and say, oh, what does a Word document look like? That's what you have here. But it's a Word document on steroids, because not only does it allow you to change your text, change your font, change your color, add images, you can also bring in video. You can bring in studio videos. You can bring in voice clips. Okay, you can link stuff right from your file and bring it right here. Okay, and that's really, again, we're not asking to recreate the wheel. We know a lot of our stuff is inside of files. So that's where I think we can probably get our big bang for our buck here. So let's say that here is a resource on HIPAA. Please pay close attention to the violations being made. Setting the scene, right? Again, we get all the great things because no one knows how to type, and that's me too. Let's do our, not our visitations, but our violations. Violations being made, okay? Now, I've set the scene for my learner. They can come in, they can read this sentence. Maybe I put a couple think about questions here so that as my learner's going through here, there's 3 questions for them to think about as they're watching the video. I can now take anything from images to external links, course links, to over here is our icon for our file, okay? Now here, we talk about course documents, okay? That's gonna be your documents inside of the files inside of this course. Your user documents are going to be the things that are particular to your profile inside of Canvas. So you have a whole nother layer there. And then, of course, if it's not there already, you can just upload right inside of the screen. I love the way Canvas does that for you, because it's like, oh man, now I got to go back out and upload and now come back in and relink. It's a one-stop shop inside of the rich content editor. All right, so I can take a course document and find that course document inside of my list and say, okay, here it is, and drop it right there for my students. Okay, then my students don't have to go into files, find that particular document to click on in order for them to watch the video and think about our think about questions. Okay, and then inside of this space, again, we talked about our accessibility checker. That's right down here, which is your kind of a little man in a circle. They say not to use yellow on the page, but the accessibility checker's in yellow. I don't know, a little guilty there might be, but check it out. The accessibility is there down at the bottom. So that allows you to kind of do the accessibility on the side of the page. And we have no accessibility issues on this page. Congratulations, we get our balloons and now we can save. Okay, so inside of this space, again, I had the opportunity to set the stage for my learner. I had the opportunity to bring something from my files and give them the instance to look at it inside of this space and set the learning rather than sending them directly to the files location to be able to hunt and peck that resource out. Okay, so here was just one example with files, right? We talked about using this with videos. Kathy talked a little bit about how she uses it with kind of setting the stage with questions with an assignment embedded in there as well. Monica talked about using it a little bit inside of her graduate courses and how it is to set up resources that way. So as we kind of looked inside of this space and took a peek at that, was there anything else that you were like, oh, wow, I could really see myself using it for this? And it might not even be like files or videos, but just a particular concept or a particular content area where your students might need a little bit of extra help, or you tend to have to provide more additional resources than normal. For me, inside of my informatics class, I could see myself having an APA page, right? I'm constantly reminding students of this is how you text inside of, or this is how you do your in-text citations for APA. This is what your reference page looks like. Okay, here's the Purdue OWL resource. So instead of giving those things inside of a list, building out a more robust page for that resource that I tend to have to refer to constantly as the instructor in that course, which is kind of the APA side of it. Rachel, did you have something there?
So I wanted to see if you wanted to quickly show while you're on the train of showing them how to do it. Did you want to show them how they could type out text, select it, and attach a file? Because I know like when I'm uploading files into courses, I'm not paying attention to how the file's named all the time. So when you just click the document, you end up with whatever that title is. So sometimes it can be helpful to rewrite, like type out what you want them to see as the title, and then you can still attach it as a link the way the first one's done.
Perfect. I think that's a great idea, Rachel. And you're right. A lot of times we kind of just take whatever the file name is and drop it here. And you can see that's what happened with our implementation PPT. And it's like, wow, you really love PPT. So it'd be a really good idea here to kind of just say maybe implementation PowerPoint. And for a bonus point from one of our nursing colleagues, implementation is what step of the nursing process? Anybody? Bonus point.
5th.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate you. I am
Sorry,
not.
I couldn't get the find the mute
You're
button.
all good. Maybe do something like that, right? 5th step, implementation PowerPoint, because again, I'm not a content expert. And a lot of times I associate, I'm a numbers guy. So it helps for me to know that implementation is the 5th one. You know, maybe I'm coming up with some way that, oh, I see the I inside of the top end of the 5. I know that implementation is the 5th step because I see the capital I inside of the 5. And that's the way I would remember that. Maybe our nursing students don't do that. I'm not sure. But give them those cues to kind of see that. And we can take our 5th step here of implementation. We just wrote this in our regular text. We can highlight this and come right up to where we were before inside of our paper icon and click on our course documents and click on our implementation PowerPoint. So as long as that text is highlighted before we click on that resource, then that text then becomes a hot link to that resource. So both of these things are the same. Implementation PPT, and our 5th step implementation PowerPoint go to the exact same file, but certainly setting a little bit more context for your learning for us to be able to put the text there. Great point there, Rachel. Go ahead, Kath.
Andrew, what is that symbol that you pointed to at the top to get to this add file again? I keep missing it. I keep trying to see which one is it? It's so darn small.
It's a piece of paper.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, kind of, it's a document. So think about files, and it's usually like a
Got
Word
it.
document or a PDF. Some of those are a
Okay.
little bit more intuitive than others, but certainly your kind of media is right next to that. You see the little play symbol with
Okay.
our music sign. I wish I could use a better term than music sign. There's obviously a better term there. And then you kind of have that files icon.
Okay, so it's a piece of paper. It's that
Yeah.
paper icon. Okay, from
And you can
where I'm
always
sitting,
you can
it
always
just kind
hover
of looks like a
too.
blob. Okay.
If you hover your mouse and just let it sit, it will also give you kind of the quick dip of, oh, here's documents.
Okay.
And then here is your record media. And
Got
again, you can always do your Control+ on your screen if you need to make that space a little bit bigger for yourself inside of that area. Because you're right, those icons get a little bit smaller, especially if you're just working on the laptop.
Okay. Thank you.
Anjali, go ahead.
Another helpful way to insert course links, documents, or external links is see along the top where it says edit, view, and insert. If you pull the drop-down menu for insert, when your text is highlighted, you have a list of different things you can link it to. So if you have a really great external website, that link option, the first one, will let you link from the caret over either an external link or a course link, images, media, documents, and so on. So you can use the icons that Andrew showed you. That's one way to do it. And then the other way in a list form is to use that drop-down menu for insert.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm normally using. And that's why I was like, what's that? Where's he clicking? Okay, now, thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, the linear list is really good too there. I love, and you think about kind of on the topic we're here, we're talking about implementation as the first step. And obviously there's good resources on the web on that. So you find a good blog or you find a good article where someone's talking about the implementation step, you can then take that external link and add that here on this page for your learners right in that same space. And again, think about how much more robust that is for a learner. Now I'm coming onto a page to get my video, my external link to my PowerPoint, and my other research article that I need to look at, as well as my 3 think about questions, as opposed to just clicking on modules and seeing PowerPoint, link to article, assignment, right? And it's like, okay, I have to click through all of those things to get the whole picture. Here you provided a really good, clear picture of what your learners and their expectations for them inside of this environment in a one-stop shop, right? I don't even have to go to the next thing. I'm right here. I got it all right in front of me. So it's a great use for that in that way. Again, I kind of want to, bring your attention back to this. I know that, again, I want to reiterate, we're not recreating the wheel. A lot of this stuff is already in place. It's just we're kind of making it a little bit more robust on the pages side. And we can really get a bang for our buck because, again, we're bringing our attention back to our graduate template. Those of us in the graduate world, you've seen this inside of our template. You're going to see it more inside of the fall. And this is where we're going to be pushing undergrad as well. I think that especially for our online environment and our online learners, this really makes the education platform more robust. But when it comes to our face-to-face class for our undergrad, those places where we tend to just have to provide more resources, this is the place where we can use pages better. And when we know that we have an exam coming up and these are the 3 topics that our students struggle on the most, and you have 5 resources for each one of those topics, we can make an exam to study guide page. And on that page, we have all of the resources the students need in a one-stop shop environment. Okay, and that makes that learning experience way more engaging than just clicking through a linear list of file names and titles to articles and external resources and going in and out and what that might look like. Does that make sense for here today? We have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to give the opportunity for anybody to share anything that they saw today and any uses that they might be able to use pages or ways that they could see themselves improving. And then anyone from TLT that might have anything that they would like to add inside of this time. I really thank you for your contributions already today and your attention. Really good ideas. This session is similar tomorrow. I'll be here. Colleagues from TLT will be here, so you're welcome to join us again. And certainly great conversation inside of that space, but wanted to give you a little bit of time to add your thoughts and any comments you might have here. Thanks, Tanya. Appreciate you. All righty then. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for that. If nobody has anything else to add, I appreciate that. I will hopefully catch some of you tomorrow. If not, please, if you need a little bit further instruction on pages or helping your course environment be a little bit more user-friendly when it comes to the pages environment, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's something you and I can do one-on-one inside of your office. That's something you and I can do over Zoom. That's something that you can just shoot me an email for and say, hey, can you take a look at this? What are your thoughts? How could it be better? we can communicate that way as well. I'm a resource for you as well as our colleagues in TLT. So I thank you so much for your attention today. Thanks, friends.